The origins of wine stretch back beyond written history, and modern archaeology has yet to pinpoint the exact beginnings of grapevine cultivation. It's hypothesized that early humans climbed trees to pick berries, enjoyed their sweet taste, and began collecting them. Over time, natural fermentation in the juice at the bottom of containers would produce low-alcohol wine. This practice likely evolved around 10,000 to 8,000 BC, coinciding with the shift from a nomadic lifestyle to a more sedentary one, which facilitated agriculture and the domestication of wine. The fermentation of Vitis vinifera subsp. Sylvestris, the ancestor of the modern wine grape, became easier with the development of pottery during the later Neolithic period around 11,000 BC. However, the earliest concrete evidence of wine production dates from several millennia later. The earliest archaeological evidence of wine fermentation dates back to around 6,000 BC at sites in Georgia. Other ancient sites with evidence of early wine production include Hajj Firuz in Iran, circa 5000 BC, Greece, circa 4500 BC, and Sicily, circa 4000 BC. The earliest known steady wine production was found in Armenia around 4100 BC. Interestingly, the earliest evidence of a fermented drink made from grapes and rice was found in ancient China, dating to around 7000 BC. The Iranian jars from Hajj Firuz contained a form of retsina, using turpentine pine resin to seal and preserve the wine, providing the earliest firm evidence of wine production. The spread of wine production to Greater Iran and Greek Macedonia occurred by about 4500 BC, with notable evidence of crushed grapes found at the Greek site. The Arini I cave in Vayotz Zor, Armenia, dated to around 4100 BC, is recognized as the oldest known winery. This site contained a wine press, fermentation vats, jars, and cups, along with seeds and vines of Vitis vinifera, a grape still used in modern winemaking. The presence of such developed winemaking technology in 4000 BC suggests that the practice likely originated much earlier. The seeds found in Arini cave date back to about 4000 BC, predating the earliest comparable wine remains in Egyptian tombs by 900 years. Persian wine was renowned in ancient times as depicted in the carvings of the audience hall known as Apadana Palace in Persepolis, showing soldiers of subjected nations presenting gifts, including wine, to the Persian king. Domesticated grapes became abundant in the Near East with the onset of the early Bronze Age around 3200 BC. Increasing evidence of winemaking has been found in Sumer and Egypt from the 3rd millennium BC, highlighting the widespread and ancient tradition of wine production in these early civilizations. Archaeologists have found evidence of wine production using native mountain grapes like Vitis thunbergii and Vitis filifolia during the 1st millennium BC. By the time of the Han Dynasty, beer production had largely disappeared in China, supplanted by stronger drinks fermented from millet, rice, and other grains. These fermented beverages, known as huangjiu, are often translated as wine, but they typically have an alcohol about 20%, making them quite different from grape wine. Wine made from grapes reappeared in China when trade with the West resumed under the Tang dynasty. Initially, grape wine was primarily consumed by the imperial court and did not become widespread until the Song dynasty, when its consumption spread among the gentry. Marco Polo, in his 14th century accounts, noted that rice wines continued to be the preferred alcoholic beverage in Yuan, China. Wine held a significant place in ancient Egyptian ceremonial life. A flourishing royal winemaking industry emerged in the Nile Delta around 3000 BC, following the introduction of grape cultivation from the Levant. This development was likely a result of trade between Egypt and Canaan during the early Bronze Age, dating back to at least the 27th century BC, marking the beginning of the Old Kingdom period. In ancient times, the Levant region was a pivotal center for winemaking, contributing significantly to the cultural and economic landscapes of the Mediterranean and Near East. Archaeological discoveries of charred grape seeds and occasionally intact berries or raisins at numerous prehistoric and historic sites across Southwest Asia attest to the deep historical roots of winemaking in the Levant. This tradition dates back to at least the Bronze Age and remained a significant industry until the decline of Byzantine rule in the 7th century CE. The The Phoenicians, an ancient civilization located along the eastern Mediterranean coast, were among the first to recognize the importance of cultivating and trading wine. Their strategic location allowed them to establish extensive trade networks across the ancient world. The Phoenicians used amphoras for transporting wine, a practice that was widely adopted and facilitated the spread of viticulture. Their influence reached as far as Rome and Greece, contributing to the development of their wine industries. The Phoenicians also established colonies along the Mediterranean coasts, from modern-day Tunisia to Spain, where they introduced viticulture practices. Carthage, one of their colonies, later became a maritime empire known for its raisin wine, passum, which gained popularity in Rome. Wine played a crucial role in ancient Israelite society, serving as both a dietary staple and a key element in cultural and religious practices. It was integral to everyday life and ceremonial rituals, including sacrificial libations. Archaeological remnants of wine production facilities, such as those at ancient Gibeon, and detailed biblical descriptions of vineyards and grape varieties highlight wine's prominence in ancient Israel. The Hebrew Bible contains numerous references to vines and winemaking, emphasizing its importance. Jewish winemaking traditions evolved during the Hellenistic period, incorporating spices, honey, herbs, and other ingredients to produce sweeter, higher alcohol content wines that were often diluted with water before consumption. During late antiquity, under Byzantine control, the Levant emerged as a renowned center for winemaking. Ashkelon and Gaza, two ancient port cities in modern-day Israel and the Gaza Strip, became important trade centers, exporting wine throughout the Byzantine Empire. The writings of the 4th century CE priest Jerome vividly depicted the Holy Land's vineyards, and the 6th century CE poet Corippus praised the region's white, light, and sweet wines. In the Arabian Peninsula, wine was traded by Aramaic merchants, as the climate was unsuitable for vine growing. However, other fermented drinks, including date and honey wines, were produced in the 5th and 6th centuries. Much of modern wine culture can trace its roots back to the ancient Greeks, whose viticulture practices laid the groundwork for contemporary winemaking. The cultivation of the vine predates both the Minoan and Mycenaean civilizations, indicating a long history of grape growing in the region. Many of the grape varieties grown in modern Greece are exclusive to the area and are either identical or very similar to those cultivated in ancient times. For instance, Retsina, a popular modern Greek wine, is believed to be a continuation of the ancient practice of lining wine jugs with tree resin, which imparts a distinctive flavor to the wine. In ancient Greece, wine had not yet developed into the lucrative cash crop it would eventually become. However, as viticulture gained importance due to economic demand, the consumption and production of wine increased significantly. The Greeks viewed wine production as a means to promote economic growth, leading to its widespread cultivation and exportation throughout the Mediterranean. Greek amphoras, often adorned with stylistic art, have been found across the region, signifying the extensive trade networks established by the Greeks. Some evidence even suggests that the Greeks may have played a role in the introduction of wine to ancient Egypt. The Greeks introduced the Vitis vinifera vine to their numerous colonies, including those in modern-day Italy, Sicily, southern France, and Spain. This introduction significantly influenced the local wine industries, contributing to the rich diversity of grape varieties and winemaking techniques found in these regions today. The Greeks also contributed significantly to the understanding and appreciation of wine through their literature and philosophy. Homer's epics, for example, frequently mention wine, highlighting its importance in Greek society. Philosophers like Plato and Aristotle discussed the virtues and vices of wine consumption, emphasizing moderation and the cultural significance of wine. The Romans, who were heavily influenced by Greek culture, further developed and expanded upon these viticultural practices. They adopted and adapted Greek techniques, which they spread throughout their vast empire. The Romans' contribution to winemaking included advancements in vineyard management, the introduction of new grape varieties, and improvements in wine storage and transportation. Roman innovations such as the use of barrels and glass bottles for wine storage are practices that continue to be integral to modern winemaking. The advent of Islam and the subsequent Muslim conquests in the 7th and 8th centuries reshaped the cultural and political landscape of vast territories, including the traditions surrounding alcohol consumption. Despite Islamic law prohibiting alcoholic beverages, the production and consumption of alcohol, especially wine, continued to thrive under Muslim rule. Wine became a frequent subject of poetry, and many caliphs were known to partake in drinking during social and private gatherings. In the medieval Middle East, advances in distillation by Muslim alchemists led to the production of relatively pure ethanol. This development had industrial applications, particularly in the perfume industry, where ethanol was used as a feedstock. Additionally, wine was distilled into brandy for the first time during this period, marking a significant evolution in the production and use of alcoholic beverages. Despite these advancements and the continued production of wine, the Muslim conquest of the Levant had a significant impact on regional winemaking traditions. The initial suppression of winemaking was followed by the 13th century Mamluk conquest, which resulted in the complete prohibition of wine production. This marked the end of centuries of regional prominence for Levantine wine. In medieval Europe, the landscape of alcoholic beverages was defined by regional differences and social hierarchies. In the southern regions of Europe, where the climate favored grape cultivation, wine became the staple drink across all social classes. This included not just the nobility and the affluent, but also the common people, who had easier access to vineyards. In contrast, the northern and eastern parts of Europe, less conducive to viticulture, relied predominantly on beer and ale. Wine did make its way to these regions, but its cost limited its consumption primarily to the upper classes. In the medieval household, particularly among the merchant class and nobility, wine was a fixture at every meal. A housewife or a servant would offer a variety of wines, both red and white, and often employ recipes for meads and flavored wines. To address the problem of wines spoiling due to the lack of modern preservation methods, people often added honey or spices to mask any undesirable flavors. Since wines were stored in barrels, they were typically consumed young and not aged extensively. This practice of consuming fresh wine led to a common tradition of diluting wine with water, often at a ratio of 4 or 5 parts water to 1 part wine, to reduce the intoxicating effects of alcohol. The history of wine production in the Americas is deeply intertwined with European colonization, starting with the arrival of the Spanish conquistadors. One of their primary motivations was to ensure the availability of wine for the Catholic Holy Eucharist, an essential part of religious practice. To this end, the Spaniards brought European grape varieties to what is now Mexico. As waves of European immigrants continued to arrive, they brought with them grape varieties from their homelands, including French, Italian, and German vines. These introductions expanded the diversity of wine production in Mexico, blending Old World traditions with the New World's unique conditions. Despite this influx of European varieties, wines made from Native American grapes, which offered distinct and different flavors, also found a place in the burgeoning wine culture of the Americas. By the 16th century, Mexico had become a significant wine producer, to the point where its production started to rival and affect the commercial output of Spain. This burgeoning industry caught the attention of the Spanish crown, concerned about the competition. In response, the Spanish king issued an executive order to halt Mexico's wine production and the planting of new vineyards. This decree was intended to protect Spain's domestic wine industry from the growing threat posed by its colony's successful vineyards. However, the story of New World wine did not end with this royal edict. The resilience of Native American vines would later play a crucial role in the survival of European viticulture. In the late 19th century, Europe faced a devastating crisis with the outbreak of the phylloxera blight. This tiny insect wreaked havoc on European vineyards, threatening the very foundation of the continent's wine production. It was discovered that Native American grapevines were immune to the pest, providing a potential solution to the crisis. The development of French-American hybrid grapes was one response to the phylloxera blight. These hybrids saw some use in Europe, But a more significant and lasting solution was the practice of grafting European grapevines onto American rootstocks. This method proved highly effective in protecting vineyards from phylloxera and has since become a standard practice in viticulture worldwide. Wherever phylloxera is present, European grapevines are typically grafted onto resilient American rootstocks, ensuring the continued production of high-quality wine.